Everybody, thank you very much for coming. I'm Helen Jacobson. I'm the Senior Curator and the Curator of the French Decorative Art here. And this is my colleague Jürgen Huber, who is our Senior Furniture Conservator. And what we're going to do this morning is to give you a glimpse of what I hope you will agree are the delights of French 18th century furniture. And we are extraordinarily lucky here at the Wallace Collection with our collection of furniture. As you can see from this room, we are blessed with a great deal of furniture which is known as Boule furniture, and it's called that after the cabinet maker responsible for it, André Charles Boule, who was probably the greatest French cabinet maker ever, but certainly was the most influential at the late 17th, early 18th century. And it's due to him, really, that this kind of decorative effect is so popular. This is what we call Boule marquetry, after André Charles Boule. And as I'm sure you're all aware, it's made from turtle shell with brass inlay, brass decorative detail. And it's this black and gold effect which was so dynamic and popular in the late 17th, early 18th century. In the second half of the 17th century, cabinet makers like Boule start doing very exotic things with marquetry. So I'm sure Jürgen will be able to tell us more about the marquetry, but essentially it is small pieces of wood which are cut into different shapes. They are then stained and then placed against on a backing to make a wonderful picture. Paintings in wood, they have been called. Where his real clientele was in the financier market. So from about 1700, France increasingly had resource to great financiers to support its economy. Louis XIV was continually waging war, and it was absolutely crucifying France. So we get this rise of the financial class. And they're the ones with all the money, and they want to make big statements. They are building themselves huge houses where we now know Place Vendôme, Place de la Concorde. That was where they were building and moving to, and they were filling their houses with furniture like this.
What you hold in your hand here is a piece of turtle shell. It's always described as tortoise shell. It's not a land-living tortoise, it's a sea-living turtle. Land-living tortoises are totally useless. Sea-living turtle, that's what you need. And you have hawksbill, lockerhead, or green turtle. They were all extinct. Now they can't be traded anymore because they're all extinct. They've all been, basically out. Here you go, a saw, which I pass around here. What you need is, that's the essential bits you need here to make Boule marquetry. You use that turtle shell. When you do hold it in raked light, you can see an amazing pattern underneath emerging, and that's totally typical for a turtle shell. You don't get it anywhere else. And what you actually have is a piece of brass, just a sheet of brass. You have a sheet of turtle shell, you put them together in what is described a packet. You put the design on the front, yeah. You got this design here. And then literally you follow with this spread saw, yeah, but obviously with a bigger one, they have huge arcs at the back. And you actually literally follow that design. So you cut through, you follow just one line, and by cutting, you barely cut through your brass and you cut through your turtle shell, and then all you have to do is interlay one with another, and you have what is called première partie and contrepartie. And that's what you see here on these pieces. You have here, for example, massive contrepartie, and here you got première partie. And again, you got massive contrepartie, yeah? And so the whole piece here is mainly made out of contrepartie pieces, yeah? And you don't want contrepartie. You want to have première partie because you want to imitate Japanese lacquer. And if you now hold your saw not exactly 90 degrees at every curve, your designs are rendered useless because you can't interlay them with each other.
So it's clear that Boule is looking at Asian techniques and Asian design and giving his clientele something incredibly up-to-date, but novel, really novel. And nobody's going to suggest that that is a piece of lacquer furniture, but they just love the sort of the game that they're playing, looking similar to, but better than, perhaps, if you like. But Jürgen is going to give two treats. First of all, he's going to open this for us. This chest and its pair were made in about 1680 in Japan, in Kyoto. And just look at the state of this. It's absolutely wonderful. It looks as though no one's really ever opened it. Beautiful lacquer, and all this gold, powdered gold here around the edges. And if Jürgen shows you a drawer, you'll see just how beautiful that is. We think that these cabinets were given to Louis XIV's daughter-in-law when the ambassadors of Siam visited Paris in 1684. And they are certainly of very great royal quality. Yes, can you see that? The sprinkled gold on the bottom. Even on the bottom, and even in the drawer space, there's more of it. I mean, these are really exceptional quality pieces, which is why we keep them shut. So you're very lucky to see inside that. Now, lacquer itself.
Were these cabinets made for the European trade and then sent to Europe, or they were bought in Japan and brought in?
Yes, this was made for the export market. There's very little Japanese lacquer in the late 17th century that wasn't made for export.
So yeah, so quickly on Japanese lacquer. To get to this glossy surface you see here, or you appreciate here, you have to go through various phases. So when you start here, you start off with your wooden core material, yeah. Then you put some scrimming on it, some canvas, and then you barely build up all these various layers. These are different stages, and I just did a shortcut here. There's normally twice as many, yeah. And again, I just pass this around. The marquee decoration is, as I said, gold dust. And you get that gold dust, sort of always showed in these lovely envelopes. You get 20 different sizes, and that is basically 1 gram of gold dust.
Don't sneeze.
In here, and that is size number 5. That's 1 gram of gold dust, size number 5. So you get even finer ones, and you get different sizes, different shapes, and different colour of gold, obviously, just to give you an idea. And it's very matte. And it's very matte, and only becomes glossy and shiny when you burnish it afterwards. So it's an amazing material, and it's a technique of applying it. You apply it into the wet Urushi lacquer. So it's
wet.
Yeah, wet, and that is Urushi lacquer. It comes from the tree. And similar to rubber tree, in a rubber tree you cut a V shape, put your ball underneath it, you walk away, you collect your rubber at the end of the day. Here you cut nearly horizontal groove and you have to collect it, so it's very labor intensive. As it oozes out, you actually have to scribe it out.
What we're looking at here is a chest of drawers. When I've got university students here and we're talking about art history and styles, I always show them this because this is the Rococo par excellence. There is only one straight line on this, and it is where the drawers split. Everything else is curves. It's all about the curves. The cabinet making behind this is incredibly complex. There's an oak carcass. Most French furniture that we're going to show you today, underneath is an oak carcass, which has then been veneered. The wood, which is king wood, which is an expensive wood from the Americas. It's been shipped over to France, very expensive material, has been cut in this special way. And then that's not enough, so they've shown off their skills here in the center with this wonderful crisscross design, lattice design of parquetry. When it's geometric marquetry, we call it parquetry. And it sort of glimmers a little bit even today. Imagine back in 1739 when this chest of drawers was delivered, the colours of this wood. They weren't stained, but the wood would be much more richer purple, much redder, so there'd be much more of a contrast. But that's not enough. You then have the gilt bronze mounts. We have rather amazingly, for this period, a design drawing of this chest of drawers, which I'll pass around here. Now, the reason we know so much about this chest of drawers is because it was made for Louis XV. It was made for his bedroom at Versailles. The bedroom at Versailles is the most important room in the house. It's where the king sleeps and where he receives people, and this was delivered in 1739. You might ask, why is it here? How is it here? When a king dies, the first gentleman of the bedchamber is given the furniture in the king's bedroom as a perquisite. And so 1774 this was given to the Duke d'Aumont, a great collector. We're very lucky to have pieces from his collection. And then, of course, it was on the market, and so it came down to us. The reason we know this has been at Versailles is on the top here, under the marble, you can see this mark, the Versailles mark. And if I'll pass that around. Above that, you can see a little bit of the gilt bronze, where there is very unusually an inscription by the maker, by Caffieri. And if you come down here, you can see it. He is the man who designed and made this chandelier. Most people come into the room and sort of don't realize it's part of the artworks of the room, but it is the most phenomenal chandelier made in the early 1750s. Again, high Rococo style. Wonderful arms reaching out, and the drip pans are these great shells. Can you see them? It's a splendid piece of gilt bronze. In this room, you can see more things than anywhere else in the world that were owned by Marie Antoinette. And what it helps us actually is give us an idea of her taste. And although in paintings she doesn't seem to have had a very sophisticated taste, or even have been very interested in paintings, she was absolutely fascinated by decorative arts and had the most wonderful eye for detail and for decorative objects and for quality of workmanship. I say she had a lovely eye. Maybe she was just lucky enough to have first-class people working for her. But the pieces of furniture and gilt bronze and decorative art that she surrounded herself with were absolutely exquisite. All the pieces that we own were in her private apartments, and particularly in her private study at Versailles, the Cabinet Intérieur, which you may know is a very small room. So we're talking about small pieces of furniture, intimate pieces of furniture. And the first one that we know about that was delivered to her is this desk here. This is a full front desk. It's a secretaire. We have some keys. It's got this wonderful marquetry picture of the Gallic cock, the caduceus. This is the symbol of Mercury, the messenger god, so if you've got a desk, it's a very appropriate thing to have on it. Then these wonderful vases of flowers, let me show you, which the marquetry would have resembled, the vase would have been resembling an old marble or porphyry urn. Then these wonderfully, very naturalistic flowers. You can see they're even more detailed than the Boule work of 80 years earlier. Absolutely as naturalistic as possible. This would have been brightly coloured, so don't forget that. This is the brown furniture that we all love. Forget it, that's not what they enjoyed at all. Well, you can still see the green on the stems and the leaves. The flowers would have been yellow or pink or red, whatever natural flowers were. The vase, I imagine, would have been a sort of deep marble colour to try and give you the effect of marble. Sometimes you get lapis vases, so they would have been blue. Totally different. So this will just give you an idea of the interior of a secretaire. Very beautiful. Look again at this veneer. You can see the pinkness in this wood. This is bois de rose, tulip wood, which has got this wonderful, almost zebra-like stripes to it actually, and they would have been even pinker. Wonderful burr finish on the front of the drawer. All of this will be an oak carcass again, but veneered in exotic woods. And then here, I've shown you this like this because that is a flap. Perhaps Jürgen can show us. Usually that is down like that. But
Shut.
most of these secretaires have secret drawers. And the spring has gone on this, but if you lift it up, as we just did, perhaps you could lift it up again, you can see on either side there are little secret drawers. And that's the oak drawer. It doesn't look as though it's been used very much, but who knows? That's very Riesner, the channel, the rebate in the drawer underneath with the channel. Now, one of the great things about this furniture, because it was at Versailles, because it's marked, we have quite a lot of information about its history. And we know that when Marie Antoinette got fed up with this, which was about 2 years after it was delivered, she sent it off to her husband, who had it at Saint-Cloud in his room. And then when the revolution came, the revolutionaries wanted to send away a lot of furniture to have it sold. They kept the very special bits. But before they did that, they wanted to check that there were no secret papers, you know, the terrible ci devant roi. So they were desperate to open this chest of drawers to find out what was inside. And they didn't have the key, but they didn't want to break it, because unlike the Civil War in Britain in the 17th century, the revolutionaries understood there was a lot of value in French furniture. So they didn't want to break it. The great thing about Riesner, though, is that the back of his secretaires slides out all in one piece. So they put it on its front, pulled out the back, got inside the secret drawers, and all they found, the only thing they found, was the list of who sleeps where at Versailles. So there was nothing very secret about that. No, I don't think, no, absolutely not. And this is 1780s, we're talking about the neoclassical period, people are looking back to Rome, and you find the Temple of Venus, for example, has a ceiling which has similar sort of lozenges rather than trellis work, but this has been made into trellis. Every single bit that you see here, every little bit of ebony or boxwood, it's all a separate piece that has been assembled into that. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of separate pieces. When Jürgen started working on this, he couldn't believe how brilliantly made it was. And in the center we have a medallion. That is a pastoral trophy, you know, it's just a lovely confection, which was echoed in the silk that she had hanging on her walls. So this was totally unified with the silk on the walls.